Hello there and welcome. In this video I want to introduce to you 10 different vampire builds in Age of Wonders 4. This is all Thrones of Blood content, and the common denominator for all these builds is that they utilize the new blood tomes. You can play these with or without a vampire ruler. With a few exceptions, this is optional. There's only one build where I feel like you are missing something out if you don't, but apart from that, it's up to you. But all of your culture will eventually turn into fancy vampires, and the list of different playstyles that we got here is pretty wide. So let's get started. One last thing though before I dip into the first build. I have put this time links down into the description box which lead you to build planner things that give you an overview of the builds that I have introduced. There's one thing though, I have never set up any racial traits. These are entirely up to you because I feel like these are very playstyle different, but society traits and tomes can be accessed there. Okay, let's get started with the feudals. These guys, for the vampirism theme, I play with aristocracy because two reasons. For one, we are not that strong with archers, and the other thing is their tier 3 unit is so good for heroes, and vampires are all about hero builds. So that's the only build where I say please pick a vampire lord because it just fits so nicely into the whole thing. We are playing here a swarmy early game and focus later down the road on high tier troops. That's a pretty nifty thing, and I really like how this plays out. The whole key point that I want to showcase here is that we are running Liege Guards, which have been nerfed. Yes, Gargoyle update has made their Sworn Bond skill a lot weaker, but they're still really useful. So they shield your heroes, and between that we have a lot of different cool things that we are running here. Tome-wise, I went for this build into a Zeal tome first, because it's just so much damage that you get, and altogether Legion of Zeal, Inspiring Chant, and Summon Zealot, you get a lot of swarmy capabilities out of that. Obviously, the other tome that we're picking, and this I will be featuring only once because it's very similar, all of these builds get to start with a Tome of the Bloodrite, or Zeal if you want to, because it's a very strong early game tome. But Bloodrite is also really nice. It features a burst spell that gives spread AoE with a small price of damage on your own units. You can do a really powerful buff with a small price of damage on your own units, but you get lifesteal and strengthening in return for that. This is really powerful. Both spells relatively cheap. Blood Drinking Blades heals your units if they strike something bleeding, and with the given tools, making something bleed is quite easy. Sanguine Focus gives us bleed chance on battle mages and supporters, and Flesh Carved Runes gives us a lot of regeneration, and we get to ignore status resistance of the enemy. This is really nice, but only in correlation with bleeding. And last but not least, the good old Blood Cultist. I just want to showcase this buddy here. These guys are available for all of our builds. The Blood Cultist does deal a pretty nifty amount of damage. He can afflict a irresistible bleeding debuff, the Blood Parasite, which spawns a unit if the the parasite unit gets killed, and if that maggot dies, it can spread that parasite thing yet again. So all in all, these guys are really good at dealing damage, providing fresh units, and last but not least, they can kill themselves to deal a hella damage in their last turn, and if you win, they just come back via Resurgence. One thing that I really want to point out here is that Scarlet Plague receives an upgrade once they go into champion level, so that's a nice thing too. This package is available for all of our builds. In the feudal sense, this is making a really nice opener for anything that you want to do swarm-wise. Bloodletting and Life Leeching gives you sustain, damage, and damage over time. Blood Drinking Blades lets your units heal. Sanguine Focus and the Blood Cultists are in the backline to deal nice ranged damage. Because we're playing Feudal, we have also access to really good frontliners. Militia that we can use as expendable troops. bannermen, which have an excellent healing spell if we ever should need it, and really good shock troopers and a solid front line altogether. Okay, enough about the low tier, let's head on over to the higher tiers of this build. We are running here, on that end, a combination of Tome of Beacon to make our weak units really strong, because Mighty Meek is for swarmy builds really just excellent. We get a better supporter in form of the Chaplain. The Blast Souls are also really nice. I will mention that in a hot minute. And the other part, which is present in every one of these builds, is the Tome of Revelry. The Tome of Revelry has been updated with Blood Fury weapons. Now we can inflict bleeding on the enemy, which is something we just want to have. The Skulls are yet another supporter which spreads bleed. Keep in mind that any supporter and battle mage can spread bleed, and the other things here give us a nice morale bonus, and Carnival of Flesh is also pretty synergistic with the feudals in general. Once we hit tier 3, we take a very interesting combination of going for Pandemonium as one tier 3, so we get all the goodness for the battle mages. Havoc Magic, which is a lot of negative status effect. We inflict status vulnerability, so that's a pretty nice combo. The Chaos Eaters can deal a lot of damage out of these vulnerabilities. Vessels of Chaos gives our frontliners extra damage the more debuffed the enemy is, and some Infectious Insanity to top things off. On the other end, we run then Cleansing Flame. That's a very, very weird choice for a evil build like this one. Hey, Cleansing Flame, there you are. But it is offering us an excellent tier 4 polearm unit, some really good upgrades via Zealous Ignition, Pure Flame Staves, and Flame Blessed Champions. All of these skills go really well in combination, so we are blood and fire basically as our main theme here, which is pretty cool and works out really nice. And tier 4, Crimson Rain. I want to cover this one real quick once before we skim that in the future builds, just like the Blood Rite. Crimson Rain gives you a really, really powerful enchantment for tier 3 plus units. Mantle of the Blood Noble gives you stupidly good resilience for these guys, and Crimson Court gives us a building which upgrades our tier 3 plus units yet again. So you see, we're all about high quality here. Gift of the Old Blood will upgrade our entire species into Vampire Undead, which have life drinking, and they can inflict the blood parasite, so inflicting bleeding is now really much a standard. And last but not least, we get the Blood Exarch, which is an excellent tier 5 unit. We don't need to say much about tier 5 units, they're just really, really powerful. Their special shtick, though, is that they can, again, boost up the power of high tier units. It's so much fun. So this build thrives on a swarmy beginning to get things under control, and once the late game kicks in, we utilize heroes that are hard to kill with our frontliners, and then we use high tier units that get buffed up by the Crimson Rain. It is pretty fun. The last tome that I used for this build was Supremacy, because it gives you nice high tier units, nice order-based upgrades for your mages. It's just a blast. Okay, so next builds I will keep a little bit shorter because we have explored now the blood magic things, and let's head on over to High Culture. So for the High Culture, we play a ranged centric variant of this build. We want to stick to the battle mage things because the blood magic tome gives us an excellent battle mage. The blood cultist that we got is practically one of the best dudes that you could wish for. They can boost up themselves, they can deal a nice amount of damage over time, and they are everything we want before the tier 3 battle mages, the High Culture, kick in for us. Tome-wise, after Blood Rite, I went in this build for Evocation, because it gives us, with Lightning Blades and Lightning Focus, a nice mixture of ranged attack options. We don't need to boost our archers, because archers are only tier 1 units, and the Awakening bonus does everything we need. The Evokers are units you can pretty much skip on. Here in this build we are here for the unit enchantments, maybe the Fulmination, maybe the Lesser Storm Spirit too, because they are pretty nifty units that really play nicely into the High Culture's thing. Tier 2, again, Revelry, because blood magic and, you know, it's The Revelry Tome doubles down with two things. For one, we utilize Blood Fury weapons basically in every build. The skulls are always a nice to have, and last but not least, it gives us 2 points of Chaos Affinity. If you want to exchange that, feel free to, but I kept it in all of these builds for a reason. The other tier 2 to pick here is Scrying, because Scrying has been upgraded massively. Mental Mark helps or backliners, True Sight Towers help our cities and our knowledge income, and Guided Projectiles plus the Watcher gives us even more mages to work with. The advantage between Watchers and our own tier 3 cultural battle mages is that these guys are summonable and the other folks are not, so that is something that I really, really like. When we go for tier 3, I went here again for Pandemonium. It's sufficient to say that it's just a very, very good combo for any battle mage centric build. We have explored that already. And the other tier 3 I went here for was Prophecies, because Prophecies is really a good tome for blood magic in general. Fated Projectiles gives us extra critical hit. The Oracle unit gives us a potent supporter, which is much stronger than just a tier 2, and via Precognition we can make our units even much harder to kill. This is a good tome for cultures that don't have the substantial front line and just want to survive longer, and this is just what we are taking this for. Last but not least, for tier 4, I am topping the Crimson Rain off here with Chaos Channeling. I did that for a lot of builds, not because I'm feeling like Chaos Channeling is the most desirable tome, but because it just fills a lot of niches. Scion of Flame is always nice to have. Fire Resistance extra is really good if you turn yourself undead, period. Infernal Focus always plays nice into your entire backline, because Archers and Battle Mages are present in basically all builds. Sacrificial Slaughter is also really cool, because we have a lot of expendable units. The Blood Maggots are always there, and yeah, Chaos Channeling is just a good tier 4 tome, and leads into Chaos Lord, which is, yeah, it gives us a lot of tools to play around with. Now, let's move on over to number 3, the Architects.
Culture?
Here I went for Astral Architects, mostly for the sake of their affinities and nothing else. When we go for a Architect build, we obviously want a scaling focus. For this build specifically, I went for a strong focus into magic materials, because that is what our dudes are really, really synergizing excellent with. So after the Bloodrite tome, I chose for this build the Tome of Alchemy. For one, Alchemy gives us the option to exploit magic materials better. We also start with an extra magic material due to our racial traits, and with the Alchemist's Lab we get a nice knowledge income. The Afflictors are pretty cool, they diverge different damage types, and with the Architects we're pretty good with any unit type, but the Afflicting Miasma is what I'm really after. It inflicts bleeding when we inflict physical damage, and that is just excellent. So we get weakness, physical damage, bleeding, we get poison from blight damage, and then we also get electrification from our lightning damage. There's a lot of gain here. Also, Tome of Alchemy gives us control over our own unit's statuses quite well via Mysterious Tonic and Anti-Magic Tincture, and yeah, Fumigation is just a nice project all in all. So, tier 2, obviously Revelry, I will not go over that yet again, and Artificing. Here, this I chose because critical hits are nice, we get a nice frontline via Iron Golem, Siege Magic plays in nicely. I really like the package of that. Feel free to change that out. I had quite the trouble to find something else. This is mainly for the affinity in there. That's the end of the line. Tier 3 wise, Pandemonium yet again to boost up our battle mages, and then Transmutation to get ourselves Transmutation Circles, which give us more magic materials, Transmuters, which are excellent battle mages, which get again buffed up by our Vampirism thing on tier 4, and a lot of other goodies to make our units harder to kill. I like Transmutation on the Architects because their damage is already well scaling by just being Architects, so that's a nice thing. Topped off yet again with Chaos Channeling and Chaos Lord. There's not much more to say about that. I went for a magic material build here because I felt like it's really a synergistic thing. But I also feel like the architects have a lot of different playstyles too. Number 4, the Oathsworn. So here I went for a harmony build, which is a very balanced build and aims at just dominating expansionistically. That is what I really felt like works well. It's a very different playstyle than the others, but here goes. The tier 1 tome, besides the blood, obviously, is Zeal. Here, this is yet again a good starter package. We went over that again a while ago. Legion of Zeal, Inspiring, Chant, and Summon Zealot go so well for the Oathsworn as well. Enough said. Tier 2, we pick up Revelry because obvious reasons, and as a complement to that, I went here this time for Mayhem. Mayhem, I felt like, is a really nice thing for the Oathsworn because Mark of Misfortune plays nicely on archers and battle mages, which we both feature, and it also is a really good balancer to hinder the enemy to do things, and the gremlins are terribly annoying units that are hard to kill and take the enemy to places where they don't want to be by just being extremely evasive. Pretty nice thing. The other tier 3s that I picked here were Tome of Cycles, because Blooming Projectiles in combination with Blades of Decay, we have already so much damage over time. This is excellent. Decay hinders the enemy to heal themselves, while Blooming Projectiles give us yet another reward when the enemy dies. Remember, we already get those blood parasites when they die. Now we also get healing. It's really a hell of a package. The Druid of the Cycle also is very synergistic because they need to instantly kill units to get their recharges. Yeah, it's just a very good and strong package. I combined that one again with Tome of Prophecies because of the hard to kill qualities that the Oathsworn already naturally have. It is just a really nice thing, all in all. Topped off yet again with the Chaos things. What I want to mention for this build specifically, the society traits that I chose were necessary to get the affinities together, so you might want to follow that one. Alright, moving on to number 5, the Barbarians. So with the Barbarians, we are running a typical crit horde build, you know? We are picking up the usual suspects. Barbarians are so wonderful one-dimensional when it comes down to playstyles. Starting out with Zeal to give us a nice starting oomph, going to Revelry to give us those crits and the extra blood synergy, and for this one I went again for Artificing because Artisan Armaments is a nice one if you want to go for crits. Siege Magic, I already went over that. It makes sieges go much quicker, especially since we have a lot of battle mage and support power. And Iron Golems, I love these for Barbarians because they naturally lack a solid front line, and these guys just come on in so handy. Here again in tier 3, same thing as with the previous build, we are running Tome of Cycles because of the same reasons as before. The package here is really good, and most importantly, we gained sustain that we wanted out of that. The Barbarians really like that because they are a little bit thin when it comes down to resilience, but with the blood magic, the cycles, they're super hard to kill. That's a really good thing. I rounded that up with Devastation, because Flame Burst weapons yet again give us critical hit chance, enemies nicely explode when they get smacked by melee, and Focus of Devastation is knocking enemies out of defense modes. That's pretty cool because we have a lot of battle mages and supporters. Monstrous Rebirth was the thing that I really enjoyed here though most, because it gives us a really good amount of synergies. You can use that on your blood cultist, for example. They have resurgence after they stab themselves, so stab, damage, monsters rebirth. It is quite nice. There's a lot of other nifty things in the combination here. Devastation plus blood magic, excellent stuff. Just excellent stuff. The Barbarians also get to dip into Calamity on their tier 4 because they have the affinities to skip out the Chaos channeling and still go for Chaos Lord afterwards. Calamity is really nice because Accursed Armors, Accursed Projectiles, and the high tier units from the Accursed Shrine all meld very nicely in what we did before. And keep in mind, high tier units are absolutely the thing of all vampire builds. So this is a really interesting swarmy build that also has a very strong backline. Keep that in mind. So let's move on over to number 6, to the Primals. Here I went for a subterranean build because the Tunneling Spider just is such a nice companion. We don't have a bleeding animal anyways, and I felt like sunless vampires, cave spiders, come on, what could go wrong about that? It's a really nice concept. For these guys, we have a scaling empire that starts underground, and I went here again for the Zeal start. Zeal is really good for the primals because they have a pretty weakish start, and the combination of Legion of Zeal and Inspiring Chant just gives you that extra nudge of damage that always works a charm for me. Tier 2, Revelry plus Dungeon Depths. Here, since we are playing Underground, I am going all in for this one. The Dungeoneering Conclave gives us extra knowledge, but most importantly, the Clay Forge gives us nice Tier 3 constructs that also get influenced by our nice vampire bonuses. Our Empire gets strengthened. I really love the combination of Dungeon Depths here. For the Tier 3, I went again for Devastation, because it is really a nice combination. Flame Burst weapons, Focus of Devastation, Monsters Rebirth. We have so many units that we can't just spam, and the Warp Read goes in nicely. I really enjoyed that for the Primals quite a lot, and here again went for Tome of Cycles afterwards, or vice versa, depending on your playstyle. Same reasons, so much strength for the backline, so much sustain, so much damage over time, synergizing with our bleed scheme. There's not much that I need to explain about that yet again. And for Tier 4, top it off with the Chaos, as per usual. Not much to say about the Primals, because you just grow towards your goal, you do a lot of poison and bleed damage, and it's just a lot of fun to play. Number 7, the Reavers, and I went for the Reavers for a Necromancy build. Necromancy and Blood Magic does work surprisingly well together. For one, you have no limitation that these spells have to be on a living unit, so the rights can be used on skeletons as well, and all that life leech goes in so nicely with the Reavers. If we combine now the Tome of Necromancy as the other tier 1 thing that we go, we have a lot of units that we can use via skeleton reanimation. We have Necrotize and Necrotic Projectiles to get ourselves even more units to work with. The Necromancers, the Rotting Explosion, there's a lot of synergy in this whole package. For tier 2, Revelry as per usual plus Souls. Souls gives us Bone Horrors, which are tier 3 units, so you get a start of the vampire business yet again. And the other things in here are very nice sustaining things, and give us a battle mage unit that we can utilize later down the road when the blood cultists run a little bit out of steam. But I chose this mostly for horror reanimation and the Feast of Souls and the Soulbinders. When we go for tier 3, this time we don't go for the typical necromancy things. We skip the Great Transformation because obviously this is not the path that we take as vampires. We go for Pandemonium to strengthen our mages. We have so many of them. Vessels of Chaos will strengthen our front line. Havoc Magic, like I said, will be good for our other units. We don't rely on mage locks this time so much. I'm breaking my everlasting habits here. And the Chaos Eaters just add in a nice package towards utilizing all the conditions that we spread. So the other thing that I went for was Devastation, or pure Chaos tier 3 mid pod. Again, Flame Burst weapons and Monsters Rebirth, all these things work so well for the Reavers too. I already went over their advantages before. When it comes down to tier 4, though, we go for a really interesting and powerful package. For one, obviously the Vampire Tome, but the other half we're running here is the Tome of the Revenant. All of the high tier undead it provides are being buffed. That is really something. But it doesn't stop here. The undead units drafted in the city gain natural regeneration. All our cultural units are now undead. We gain all the goodies that we would usually gain out of the Great Transformation. It's just great. It's just such a great combo. You're so hard to kill, and your late game units are a menace. And on top of that, you also get all the goodness that you would expect from the Crimson Reign. So that's a really, really powerful package, and one of my new favorite Necromancy builds. So number 8, the Industrious. For these guys, I went for a tanking and stat debuff build, because, you know, that is just so much fun. Tanking and grinding down your enemies. I love that. Here I went for a tome combination that gives us the best by just standing next to the enemy and doing our thing, grinding down their stats. Starting out with Tome of Enchantment after the Blood for Sundering Blades and Purging Arrows, so we strip enemies' buffs, we take down their defenses, we boost up our own shields with spell-tempered shields, and yeah, awakened tools you can use in between if you want to. For the addition to the Revelry, on tier 2, we take Doom Herald, because we have Cruel Weaponry, dealing more damage when the enemy's morale is broken, Joy Siphoners to do exactly that, and we have Cause Despair, Prelude of Doom, and the Corrupt Souls are also excellent fighter units that synergize so well into everything we do. On top of that, we get the Doom Depth Trench to get ourselves some extra knowledge and mana income. When we hit tier 3, we go this time for Tome of Torment, the new one, the first one time that we run this on a different build. Painbringers are our tier 4 frontliners for this, super hard to kill, and they inflict Torment. Torment punishes the enemy whenever they use abilities. They get a lot of damage and they lose morale. So really good combination to what we already do. And Painbound gives us random positive statuses and morale whenever we get smacked. So wow, that's just such a good package to everything we did before. It does punish the enemy for being too creative while attacking us. I love every little bit about it. And top this off with Pandemonium, because this gives us even more debuffing capabilities, and that is just a flippin' nightmare for the enemy. What's really interesting is that the tier 4, we get to use Tome of the Crucible, because we are a Materium culture, we can use this. Meteor Projectiles is so strong AoE-wise, and the other nuke spells come in handy. And yeah, I just like what this does. You get to be very, very resilient while dealing a lot of damage. Keep in mind though, you don't have too many supporters. I do strongly recommend to pick up a few heroes to heal your units. 1 or 2 ritualists really go a long way here. Number 9, a dark build with the new Cult of Tyranny. Here we go for debuff stacking, while the Industrious build is more of a tanking and spanking variant. This one is a control-based variant, because the Tyranny dudes make the enemy more vulnerable to stat disease. And here we're going to go all into that scheme by just going for Tome of Cryomancy to get started, so we get the options to freeze the enemy via Frost Blades, Frost Arrows, Ice Coffin, and White Witches as a complement to our Blood Cultists. We use then on the tier 2, again, Revelry for the Blood. It's something you hear a lot here. And yeah, Tome of Mayhem as a complement to debuff the enemy further via Misfortune, and Confusion, Curse of Misfortune, and Gremlins. These are always a nice addition. Tier 3 wise, I went here also for Torment, because this is the same logic. We can hinder the enemy to do their thing so severely with that, and this is why I really, really like that. Not much more to say about that. And the other thing on the tier 3 end here, we take Pandemonium, because we are all in about debuffing, and this is just about the best thing that you can take. After that comes in Calamity, because it's a dark culture, we can again pick this up, which is a super nice complement, because we have high tier units that synergize into Crimson Reign. Enough said about that. And last but not least, number 10, Mystics. Here I went for Potential, because the overcharge mechanic is really nice. We do spam a lot of blood magic spells, and overcharge spells are always overcharged when they are cast the first time, and Dissonance explodes whenever a overcharged spell is cast. Dissonance gets applied by our units hitting stuff. So all in all, it's a nuke-based build that spams spells, debuffs, and has a skirmishy front line. It is a little bit vulnerable, but a lot of fun. Alternatively, if this is not your style, you can also just play a Necromancy build that works a lot like the Reaver one. It works a charm. If you want to follow me here though, pick Evocation next to the Blood Magic, because Evocation and Mystic is just a match made in Arcane Heaven. We take again Revelry plus Mayhem on the tier 2, because I really love that for any Battle Mage centric build, because it makes the enemy so much less reliable in dealing damage. This is the main thing here. After that, Pandemonium, because again, the same reasons apply. We want to hit hard, we want to debuff the enemy, and we want to utilize this via Chaos Eaters. But the other addition here is Tome of Teleportation, to keep our units really stupidly safe. Phase Beasts come in super handy once the Vampirism kicks in, but also before that. It's economy strong, because Mystics always love to have money, and emergency transportation is really, really, really good. Chronogates, free teleportation provinces, what's not to like about that? And the other tier 4, Astral Convergence, so we have even more spells to spam, and even more zaps that we can do to the enemy. Just Astral Attunement stays out of the line, because we go Vampire. So, that's it. 10 builds. That was a pretty long video because I had to explain so much. Like I said, in the comment, not in the comment section, in the description box, there's links to all the builds, so you can look at them more closely. Let me know how this works for you. Let me know what you did for yourself with the Blood Magic, and leave a like, leave a subscribe, consider donating, and as per usual, thanks for all the help, thanks for watching this video, and see you all next time.